This is a crash list, and after using it every day for the last year, I'm convinced it's the only productivity hack you need to use if you want to stop wasting hours scrolling through your phone, unlock instant motivation on demand, and destroy your procrastination for good. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact step-by-step method to set up your own crash list so you can make more progress towards your goals in 24 hours than most people make in a year. I've also made a digital version of the crash list you can get for free in the description box below if you want to speed up your progress and get started right away. So to start with, you might be wondering, how can this little list actually cure your procrastination? Well, it helps prevent the mistake that keeps most people feeling overwhelmed, low on energy, and unmotivated. And to show you how it works, let me show you two of my to-do lists, 1 year apart, and see if you can spot the one crucial mistake I was making over a year ago that was destroying my productivity. Now, for the eagle-eyed viewers, you might think the mistake was simply writing down too many tasks. Then most people would then say, okay, I'll just do less stuff then, Ollie. But the mistake that keeps people procrastinating isn't quite as simple as this. Because when I realized the actual mistake I was making, I finally found the motivation to grow this channel to over 25,000 subscribers, get in the best shape of my life, and do it all with having more free time and energy. So what is it? Well, the reason why the crash list works so well is because it uses something I read about in the 4-hour work week called the Pareto principle, which basically says that 80% of your results come from only 20% of the tasks that you actually do. So I realized that the reason why some people can stay super productive isn't because they do less of everything, it's because they've actually defined the few tasks that pull them forward. Then you can put all of your limited time, energy, and willpower into those tasks that actually make the biggest difference to your life. But how do you identify what these tasks are? Well, there are 3 ways I set up the crash list that ensure I achieve more by doing less. And the first one works like this. So first up, you want to avoid the biggest mistake that keeps most people trapped, feeling unproductive. And that's because most people fill their days with busy work that keeps them constantly rushing around, but then they always complain that they don't have the time to actually get anything done. The key thing here to remember is being busy doesn't necessarily make you productive. So instead, you'll see on my crash list how I limit myself to just 3 tasks for each day. And this makes it highly likely I can focus on them and achieve what I had planned and never feel overwhelmed. But at this point, you might also notice I've got some more things scribbled down in the bottom half of the page, but I'll explain how this is the secret to unlocking consistent motivation a little later in the video. However, the next tactic is going to help you avoid feeling burnt out from doing too many of the wrong things. So if you look at my list from yesterday, you'll see it might look a little bit random. I've written down a gym workout, a coffee with my auntie, and working on improving the content inside of my focus journal workshop. Why is that? Well, I realized that when I was getting burnt out at the start of this year, it was because I was focusing all of my energy onto activities related to my wealth and avoiding tasks that contributed towards my health or my relationships. So these days, I know that the key to avoiding burning out is by trying to get balance in my life across my health, wealth, and relationships. Some people on the internet will tell you this isn't possible, and you have to hyper-focus on one thing to be successful. But I know this isn't true because there's a little trick I do with my crash list to make sure I achieve my goals, but at the same time stay sane and happy and enjoy the process. What is it? Well, all I'll do is lower the stakes. So I won't always go to the gym or have a 3-hour meal with my friends, but I'll try and do something small in each of these areas of my life every day. And maybe that's going on a quick walk or just having a 5-minute text conversation with a friend. I'm not perfect all the time, but telling myself I don't have to get loads done to be productive or happy has massively helped me manage my feelings of overwhelm. But the next way I set up the crash list to stop me procrastinating helps me stay super consistent with getting things done, but it's a little unconventional. Let me explain. Because you might have noticed that I'm writing my crash list down with a physical pen and on actual paper, which you might think is kind of silly, right? Especially in this age of productivity apps, AI, and ChatGPT diagnosing your identity crisis, there's a fantastic opportunity for personal growth.
You seem to be spiraling. Have you tried signing up for a marathon?
But there's a reason why I still use good old-fashioned pen and paper as a 22-year-old digital nomad. And that's because it helps me avoid the mistake that most people make that keeps them trapped in a cycle of feeling busy but not actually getting anything done. And it works like this. So I always used to think that in order to achieve my goals, the only way to do this was by tracking my habits online, using a Notion page to log everything, and optimizing every part of my life like it was a tech startup. But for whatever reason, I would still find myself scrolling to avoid doing the difficult tasks on my to-do list. And it took me so long to realize that having all of these digital systems in place doesn't actually make you more productive. It just gives you the illusion that you're getting more done. And not only that, but it also makes it easier to scroll, right? Because you can trick yourself into thinking you're being productive and doing research, when in actual fact, between me and you, we both know you're just on Instagram. So that's why no matter how many times I installed a social media blocker on my phone, tried to lock my phone away in another room, or even followed some of those motivational pages on Instagram, nothing actually worked to stop me scrolling until I bought this pocket notebook about a year ago. So let me show you the 3 ways I use pen and paper to keep me motivated and avoid scrolling. And first up, every time I complete a task on my crash list, I'll cross it off with an actual pen. And this is because I discovered in the book Dose that when you make progress towards your goals, no matter how big or small, you release this neurotransmitter called dopamine. And that makes you motivated. The best news is this has a compounding effect, meaning the more small tasks you tick off every day, the more dopamine you feel over time, which motivates you to take even more action and complete even more tasks. It's almost like getting an unfair advantage in life. Next, the problem with technology like Notion or spreadsheets for your kind of day-to-day productivity is that you can realistically write as many tasks down as you like. And now that's great if you feel like you can do everything already. But if you're anything like me, you don't want to wake up at 4 a.m., neglect your relationships, and achieve your goals, yes, but not actually be happy along the way. So as a result of this, we only have finite energy to make progress on the things that matter in our life. So the trick here is that with pen and paper, I'll restrict my crash lists down to 1 page in my notebook, or oftentimes even less. This encourages me to only focus on what really matters and still have the free time to have some fun in my life. And the next hack with using a pocket notebook to store your crash lists is that since this notebook is only A6 size, it's really easy to carry around in your pocket, right? As it basically takes up the same space your phone would. I use these ones from Moleskine, but you can also get them from Field Notes and Wikström, I think is how you say the brand. But for the longest time, I just used whatever I had lying around, whether this was like a folded bit of paper, a post-it note, or scribbling my notes down on something random. So now you know exactly how to set up your crash list with a physical notebook for instant clarity and motivation. But there's a harsh truth you're going to want to know about. Because unless you're a robot, you're never going to be able to complete every single task every time on your crash list. At least not with the amount of effort you want. Even once you've written your priorities down clearly, if you're anything like me, you'll still randomly get loads of new ideas, there'll be interruptions and distractions that pop into your brain throughout the day. But the biggest mistake I used to make that was wrecking my productivity was I'd prioritize these random tasks over the stuff that I actually needed to do. This meant I'd miss deadlines, neglect my priorities, or annoy my editor by mixing up the footage. Sorry, Robbie. And these small, time-consuming interruptions are exactly why I created another powerful section of the crash list, because it ensures these random distractions in my life never overwhelm my focus for the rest of the day. So let me quickly show you what I've got written down in this section of my crash list so you'll know exactly how to organize your life in a way that saves you valuable time and energy. So looking closely at this part of the list, you'll see I've written things down like new video ideas, emails I might need to reply to, or sponsorship videos I need to film, like Brilliant, who are kindly sponsoring this video. Well, that was a coincidence, wasn't it? And if you haven't heard of it before, Brilliant is an online learning platform that helps you get smarter every single day. And they've got thousands of interactive lessons in maths, science, computer programming, data analysis, and AI. Now personally, I found it really easy to use Brilliant in my day-to-day routine because it's given me a productive way to be online. And the best thing is you don't even need to spend a long time on your phone on Brilliant to see big results from what you learn every day. For the past few months now, I've been working through one of the courses on Brilliant called Scientific Thinking, and it's been super interesting to discover all of the science behind the modern technology that we use in daily life. So if you want to try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, you can scan the QR code on screen now, or you can click on that link down below in the description. You'll also get 20% off of an annual premium subscription. So thank you so much to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. But the key thing here is, if you look at my crush list, every single time something pops into my head that's not urgent enough for today's crush list, I'll just add it to this secondary section right away. And I only review these secondary sort of tasks whenever I've finished my main 3 tasks for the day, or let's say I get a little bit of free time in the week. But here's the wild thing. You'd be amazed how many hours a week you can save simply by avoiding tasks you come back to a few days later and realize they're kind of pointless, so there's no point wasting precious time and energy on them. And I've consistently found that only a few tasks in this part of the crush list, like filming this segment for Brilliant or ideating new video ideas, are actually important enough and urgent enough for me to come and take action on a later date. But I still found that even after using crush lists in the way I've just described, I still found it incredibly difficult to take consistent action towards my goals until I discovered how you can trick your brain into unlocking motivation on command. And the craziest thing is, we're never even taught about how to do this, even though it's the one thing that separates successful people that achieve their goals from people who can't stop procrastinating. So watch this video next and I'll show you how I avoid procrastination with 4 super actionable dopamine boosting hacks that'll save you time, energy, and transform your productivity for good. And remember that you can get the digital version of the crush list by checking out that link in the description below.